them down. But we got to line up with the word of truth. So what are we hearing when we hear ourselves, when we hear what we say? What are we hearing from ourselves? Are we quick to hear self? That's what, well, it wasn't really quick is what he said. But are we ones that's swift to hear and slow to speak? Are we swift to hear ourselves? And that's what one of the other ways that we can look at this. Or are we one that won't listen to self and then lets that just go right over top of our head and forgets about it? Because he said if you don't grab hold of it while you got the chance and see that you made the mistake and see that there's a problem in there, then you're going to forget about it. And then what is it? He says you're going to keep talking about it. Your mouth will keep running about the bad things, and then that person's religion will end up in vain. It'll end up in trouble. It'll end up wrong because they heard the truth, they rejected the truth. Know to do right and not do it is sin. So that's what happens when people get the truth. They hear themselves make a mistake. They hear in their heart when a situation arises that they're trouble, and they don't make a change and become a doer of whatever he's telling us to do, then that's when the believers, they end up in trouble. They end up in trouble of what's going on. And then you can count on somewhere down the road that the Lord is going to bring them to another trial and try to show them again, hey, wait a minute. Don't you remember? Don't you remember what I showed you before? Don't you remember? Don't you remember this? But if we don't grab it when we hear it, if we don't grab it and become a doer of it, then it's going to cause us to end up in a road of destruction. We'll figure out our own plan. We'll figure out our own ways, what he's saying. And that's what he's talking about, that we, in this part of the scripture here. He beholdeth himself and goeth his way, and straightway forgetteth what manner of man he was. If they don't become doers when they hear it. But you got to have understanding. Every good and perfect gift come down from the Father of lights. You got to understand the word. Then once you understand it and you hear yourself make a mistake, then you fix the mistake and move away from it. Yeah. That's when you fix it, and then you become, and you grow and you become doers of it, and then you find the peace and you find the things that God's looking for. But if you don't, then you're going to look for another route, like we said, justifying it, and you'll take that route and you'll follow that path and you'll go that way. And if you don't fix it, then eventually you're going to forget what manner of man you were and continue to speak the wrong things, continue to speak the wrong words. And then what the Bible says, that man's religion's in vain.
Let's take, for instance, just what happened. Like how Julian said that I flipped somebody off in the and it says I'm joking. Okay, that frustrates me. Am I supposed to just sit back and just look at the shroud out?
Before you speak her, I'm going to pop you in the butt.
No, I mean, seriously. I mean, and that goes with like anything. Let's say it's another adult or whatever. If you can see what's going on, are you supposed to just not address it? Just.
Well, I'm sorry for saying that.
Well, you brought up a good point because it
It fit right in, didn't it?
Yeah.
it fit right in. It added on to me a little bit, but
I'm talking about.
It's actually two different points that you're bringing up here. One, there's a difference between a parent doing what they got to for their child, to correct their child or whatever. There's a difference in, discipline of correcting a child that's wrong or whatever. That's that point there that you brought up with Julian. You're the parent, so therefore you got to correct him. The second point you're bringing up is there's a timing issue. There's things that I know about people right now Bridget, and you may see some things about others too, but there's a time and issue to when to bring that. There's a time and issue to when to bring and tell somebody, I see something, or I heard, there's something that went on that I need to bring to your attention. And because I'm telling you that if it comes at the wrong time, I've seen it break people from down. I've seen it just completely destroy people. But I know right now of some situations right now that I would love to tell some people, but I know that if I did, they're really all children right now, and their actions would come back as childish actions, and then who knows where it may lead to. Who knows where those situations may lead to. But it's a difference between being a parent and doing the correction, and then seeing mistakes in others. You got to go to Galatians 6 when it tells how to help a brother or sister who's in trouble. And it tells us that, number one, don't let it grab a hold of you and pull you down. But number two, how do you lift them up? You continue going forward with what you are called to do. You continue praising the Lord and lifting Him up. And then in time, God will allow a time for them to see the truth. And that's the way I interpret it when you look at Galatians 6. Have you ever told somebody something and they get plumb mad at you?
Oh,
I hate that.
Yeah. Or is somebody... There's a timing issue, I'm telling you. You know, and I know that there really are a timing issue with many things. And if you wait on God's timing and be patient, even though, you know, we may see that we need to tell Lisa something, need to tell Lisa something, need to tell Lisa something, the Lord will allow a chance to get in and eventually show her, He'll show her, or He'll give us an opportunity to say, okay, this is what's going on, and I need to tell you, and the Lord's now told me to tell you. But I have seen it because I've done it wrong, and then I got the timing right too. And if the timing's right, you'll help them. If the timing's wrong, I've seen it hurt more than it helps. Did I answer your question or no?
Half, I would say. Your half. What if they never move? What if it's just they stay a child? Even if you tell them something they're doing, they can't even progress with it.
Everybody's going to grow. Not everybody's going to help. Not everybody's going to go forward.
So do you, even if they're not even moving, do you still bring that issue up to them?
Well, if the Lord tells you to, yes. If the Lord brings to your mind and tells you to go to that person and say, hey, I got something to tell you, and the Lord has told me to tell you. But He'll deal with things if we could just learn to be patient. But what we see, if we see things, a lot of times we start running through our carnal mind how to help somebody. We start running it through our carnal mind saying, well, if I did this, I'll help them. But if we see it and start seeking the Lord and saying, God, what can I do to help them? What can I do? I've seen that, and Lord, I know that there's a situation there. How can I help them? What can I do to help them? What can I do to bring forward to them? In some situations, if it's something happening right before you, right in the midst of it, it may be a simple answer is, if I was you, I would talk to the pastor about this. I would ask him about this situation and see what he says. If it's happening, as in a conversation, in an action that's right as you're, in the midst of it, that gives you a golden opportunity when you're talking to say, I would do it, you could possibly do it that way. But there's things right now I would love to say, and I'm sure maybe there's some things people seen in me that they'd love to tell me. But there's a timing issue that if we hit the wrong time with it, that I've seen it hurt people worse than what it would help them. They wasn't ready to hear it. Just like it's just